Hi, welcome.
Welcome.
I am Laurel Peltier, and we are here today to talk a little bit about family engagement and the IEP team meeting. Sitting with me is Alfredo Chapelliquen, the parent of a young man who has had an IEP when he was in school and has since moved on to adult life.
That's right.
So very exciting. And it's been my pleasure to know Mr. Chapelliquen for quite a while and learn quite a bit from him about how to do IEP team meetings well in a way that engages families and that's responsive to families. So the first question I have for you is when you were participating in IEP team meetings, what were some of the things that you remember or that stand out about the meetings you were in that made you feel like an equal participant in the process?
Well, I always like to focus on the fact that, and remind myself, or if someone accompany me, that, you know, even though the IEP team may be really good at what they do, you also have to remember that you are the one advocate that your child has in the meeting. So, you know, you need to focus on what you're saying and the things that you would like to occur, you know. And so that's I think will be the most important thing for me always when I went to the meetings, that just to remember that fact, you know, and that I was the voice of my child. You know?
Right, so parents as the voice of the child.
Right, you're the voice of the child. You should always remember that.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, you know, it is also like very important to keep, you know, insisting on the things you would like to happen, you know, for your child, and try to get all the help and always ask for it. Don't be afraid of that. Since you're the advocate, you know, don't be afraid to keep asking for, you know, the things that your child needs, you know.
So for a parent coming in to advocate for a child's needs, are there things that a team leader or that the people who were not parents sitting in the room did that made you feel like, wow, when they did that, I felt like I could ask for help or I could advocate?
Right, of course. You know, you will, during the school years of my child, I think we may have like 4 or 5 different teams.
Yeah.
So that really gave me a good overview of, you know, how I think what I call the folklore of an IEP meeting starts with. And, you know, you can set the tone, I think, you know, as a parent. And I think the second person will be the team leader.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it is, I think, of crucial importance for you to be working with a team leader. If you can, you know, you can try to contact them outside the meeting, you know what I mean?
Right.
The other thing I can say this because I have, I think, mentioned in one of the meetings that we had before that I used to work in the school system. So, you know, I was as a translator, so I attended quite a good number of those meetings, maybe 100 or more. And I always noticed that thing, that, you know, it just like in every organization, I think the way a system works comes from the head down, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I don't necessarily agree with that, but that's a reality. So you need to be, you know, always aware of that. You know, establishing a good relationship with the team leader, I think. And then try to always focus things in a positive manner, you know, because, you know, I've personally, I run the gamut of things, you know, with IEP meetings. I have had like sometimes adversarial relationships with the meetings, with the teams, and you know, sometimes it just does not work.
Right, right. Is there anything that a team leader or a team could do when it's really not working? Like if it's not working and there's a place where people are stuck, what do you think is the best thing from a parent's perspective that can happen next?
I think, you know, being approached by a team leader outside sometimes the meetings was very helpful to us. I feel like in many areas of, you know, in general, the healthcare system, and this would be one of them, in reality, people that works, you know, serving all people never really get paid what they deserve.
Sure.
So, you know, I think in the end it's always somewhat of a labor of love.
Right.
And it's good to see it that way. And like I said before, since I have been a teacher and also being a parent, you know, you get to see both things and both sides. So, you know, you have to understand first that you're dealing with a human being just like you know what I mean? And that is very important. And try to, you know, just cross that bridge into the humanity of the other person. And so, as a team leader, you gotta do the same thing, you know what I mean? I think you have to cross that, and sometimes, you know, IEP meetings can be a little cold, you know what I mean?
Right.
Or, you know, sometimes you feel as a parent that, well, there's all these people talking about my child that don't even know my child very well, or just know part of him or her. And, you know, so I think, you know, getting a little bit of that human touch in the whole thing as a team leader, I think is very important, you know. I saw my experience of watching several IEP meetings, not only, you know, for my child, but for other people, that really was the key, I think.
Yeah.
For parents, because parents, I think human beings, they feel that.
Yeah.
They feel that bridge, you know.
Yeah.
You're trying to bridge on a different level. It's just not professional, but it's also a little bit of personal. And I know there are other issues, you know, that go along with that you can't be too personal or whatever. But you know, there are ways to come around this in a way that, you know, you're not infringing into ethics.
Right,
You know?
right, I agree, to think carefully, and I think you're right, that feeling, right? That sense that we're interacting as people,
Yeah.
right? Not as roles.
Exactly, and that we're working for a common good of
Yes.
someone else, you
Yeah.
know, like that we're playing an important role in this thing, and we're in the same team, you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
Often I felt that, you know, when you know, there were some teams that were not successful to me because, and the ones I developed adversarial relationships with, because I never felt like we were playing the same team,
Right,
you know?
right, so that feeling that we're all on the same team, whether we agree or not,
Yeah,
right?
and I think
we're
that-
trying to get the same thing.
And in the end, you know, I mean, this has great repercussions in you know, what your child will achieve in the future, you know, if you feel that you are in a team, part of a team, the IEP team, then some parents think that's really crucial, you know.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't feel like, you know, the team is kind of working against you, which I have felt several
Right.
times, you know,
Right.
and you know, you know, I don't think adversarial relationships are good in any place, but, you know, I personally always tried to make a point, you know, when I felt that this was actually part of the notes, that, you know, we have an adversarial relationships and you guys are doing nothing to help us, you know.
Right, right, and it doesn't help the kid, ultimately, if that's what we're about.
No.
Helping children is about being on the same team, right?
Yeah,